Hello and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental enthusiasts, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, Laura and I discuss how we grew up. We talk to Sunny Fleming, a national solution engineer at Esri, about botany, innovation in data, and why on earth she read the infrastructure bill cover to cover. Totally crazy. And finally, I think I just called our guest crazy. I don't know why I did that. And finally, there is such a thing as too spicy. Resin of ferrotoxin, a chemical compound found in the type of spurge native to Morocco, is 500 to 1,000 times as spicy as the compound found in chili peppers. Just 10 grams of it is enough to kill a person, so maybe don't eat it. Just a suggestion. But pretty cool. Didn't know that was a thing. I thought that was pretty wild. So anyway, on that note, hit that music. Don't forget to check out NAEP's Environmental Professionals Connection, which is an environmental hub for articles, research studies, and leadership blogs from hundreds of leading sources. Take a look at www.environmentalprofessionalsconnection.com. Laura and I love doing the show. If you love it too and would like us to keep doing it, we need your help. We can't do it without our awesome sponsors. So please head on over to www.environmentalprofessionalsradio.com and check out the sponsor form for details. Let's get to our segment. I don't know. You did want to talk about how we grew up, which I thought was hilarious. Like, it's just totally different.
Oh, yeah. It sounded like it was completely different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you're telling me like your Saturdays weren't filled with your dad finding a tree to chop down for no reason and then making you drag the logs over an acre and a half to the farthest part of your yard? Are you telling me that's not what you did on Saturdays?
No. Like, our house wasn't big enough. Our yard wasn't big enough to drag anything from one place to another, but... No, I can't. Our weekends were full of like playing outside with our friends, and I don't think we even had chores. I think my parents were like of the same mind.
No chores?
I think my parents were the same mind that I have with my boyfriend. It's like, well, if I want it done right, I better do it myself. So they just did everything themselves. I think my brother got all the chores. He had to mow the lawn.
Oh man, that's some bias right there. That's that's the. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I actually, let's see. I remember the first time I skinned my knee and didn't cry. I told my dad, I ran to him like, look, I'm bleeding and I don't care. And he was like, yeah, but go finish cutting the grass. I'm like, I'm 5. What are you doing? It's like as soon as I could reach the handlebars, I was cutting grass. That's what my childhood was like. So every Saturday was like that. Sundays we were allowed to, have fun, but not Saturdays. Saturdays when everybody else was hanging out with their friends, Nick and Jake were doing yard work. We were doing chores. We were doing whatever we needed to do.
He was teaching you discipline.
Something like that. But no, it's funny though. We were talking about it a couple of years ago.
But your dad is a military dad. Is that part of the thing, or is that just a coincidence? He got drafted for Vietnam and instead of waiting, just went, came back, became an engineer and was like, I don't want to do this. And then decided to be a cop. And he was a police officer, as he would tell me. He doesn't like the word cop. But so he was a police officer for 20 some years, and discipline was extremely important to him. A very, very strict household, I would say. So funny. So we have so many similarities, but different paths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because my dad also dodged the draft and joined the Air Force, but he was an airplane mechanic.
Sorry, that's funny.
In Michigan. Yeah. So he was also in the military. I think he did actually go. He doesn't talk about it. He did go somewhere in Vietnam. Oh,
my dad was definitely there. He was in basically all throughout. He left every time right before there was a major battle. So like there were hints of a battle and they would send him somewhere else just because, not because of, just random chance. It happened to work out that way. But no, he was all about it. He was like, we got to go. So I'm going.
Yeah.
And he went. Yeah.
My dad went, but he was not all about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny. It's just, Man, my dad.
But then he also became a cop, but not until he was 55. He went through Police Academy and he became a canine cop. He had to go back to his hometown and check his records to see if he didn't have a criminal history that he had to clear up first.
It is funny. Like I remember hearing stories of my dad as a kid, and I'm like, you used to get in trouble. We got in trouble for everything, and you're riding on the front of a car. like 30 miles an hour down a dirt road around winding curves, and you're mad at us for throwing dirt. Come on.
It's
a different time, Nic.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want you to be better than me. But yeah, it was different. It was very weird. I would say we probably, of all the friends I had, by far the most strict. Like some of our friends were like afraid to come to our house because my dad would always interrogate people, and like he would find the weakest link and be like, "Well, I'm talking to you now, and you're going to tell me everything." And they'd be like, "I'm so scared of you."
That is hilarious. Our house was the house everyone was at all the time.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. And my dad would always be like, "I'm not intimidating." I'm like, "Dad, you are 6'3", 220 pounds, and you sound like this when you talk to people."
Gosh.
Like he's a huge guy. But it was just different. I mean, I remember doing jumping jacks when we couldn't sleep, and like push-ups and stuff. And, there's just a bunch of random, like chores were extremely important in our house. We had to make sure those were done. We had to do our homework before we could do anything. We had restrictions on like how much TV we watch, which, I guess isn't too rare, but like it was pretty strict. If we messed up with any of those things, grounded.
Wow.
Yeah. My brother was worse. He got away with more, but he also did a lot more. So it's kind of like, they were like, at some point they're like, all right, he's bad. We can't do anything with him. So
which one of you's older again?
Me. I'm the older one. So I've got that like protector disposition. I cannot help it. And it's his fault. I blame my brother for that. So I'm always, it's funny. I was joking at his wedding, actually, that like when we were kids, he's the kind of kid who would just sprint towards like the deep end of a pool with no idea of how to swim. Like he doesn't even understand the concept of swimming. He's just like, "Oh, neat, water, let's go." And then he immediately would start drowning. He's like, "Nic, save me, save me, save me, save me." And, do what any good brother would do, just totally ignore him, right? Just, you guys hear something? Is that? It's the wind, I guess. I don't know. And, but like he would, like I would love to say that like as he got older, that got better, but it was just the stuff changed. He just, the problems became bigger. I had to help him out with more things. And so
I wonder you talk to him every week.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. But it's actually, honestly, as we've gotten older, it's a back and forth instead of just a one-way street, which is really good. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, that's the best thing that came out of our childhood is our relationship. Like my brother and I are very close. And I think that's directly related to the amount of crap we had to put up with. And like I say, it's not terrible, but it was just funny because we're like, "Can you believe this guy?" He's like, "Yeah, he's crazy." So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm the oldest of four and also have that protective syndrome. And we're also very close. Other people are complaining, especially around Thanksgiving. I got to go over my sisters, my brothers, and they always complaining about the dynamic and don't talk to so-and-so or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, we're cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I remember we would grow up and we'd be like, as we're growing up, like, man, all of our friends hate their siblings.
Yeah.
Why? He's the only one that's there. Like, you gotta like stick together, And I guess just they had different like house dynamics than we did.
It is interesting. I mean, look how different your parents were and the situation, and we still have so many similarities.
I know, it is kind of funny, isn't it? Yeah, but I guess I had to have something to rebel against, right? Like you don't get to be a punk for no reason, and so I think that was it. I don't know, very strong sense of not wanting to follow the establishment. I've always been kind of like, okay, we need to figure out the actual best solution instead of just what someone's telling me to do. And it's directly related to, how I grew up.
And the opposite, I think I got maybe some of that question everything anti-established from my father. So,
Funny. Yeah.
You never know how the chips are going to fall, I guess. So
I know. And like you said, we could say we both ended up here. So there you go.
Right.
More than one way to raise a kid, I guess. My brother and I are both successful people. We're both doing well. And so, they did something right.
Exactly. My parents did not write the book on parentship, but they didn't mess up too bad. So
yeah. It's just, 18 hours of therapy a week. But other than that, I'm great.
All right. Well, now you know a little bit more about Nic and I. So let's learn more about our guest today.
All right. Hello and welcome back to EPR. Laura is off today, so it's just me in the helm. No big deal. But today we are joined by Sunny Fleming, who is Esri's National Solution Engineer for State Government, Environment, and Natural Resources. We're so glad to have you on the show.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here. I love nothing more than talking about all sorts of things. And that's something we get to do today. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. And honestly, let's start with your job. What is a National Solution Engineer?
So, well, it is the best job in the world. I will say that. it gets confusing sometimes because I work right now specifically with state environmental agencies. So having that word national on the front of it can sometimes confuse people. But all that means is that I work with all state environmental agencies, hence the national. So it includes environmental regulation, it includes state parks, it includes forestry, agriculture, all sorts of stuff. Every day I forget to list one of the things that's under those auspices. I don't know. But it's the best job in the world because I get to just kind of help our customers dream big, and I get to collaborate with them. I get to listen to them, and then I get to bring that back to Esri and provide this information internally and help enable all of Esri kind of speak to and resonate with this particular audience. So yeah, it's all for the benefit of our customers.
That is so cool. And so can you give us an idea of what like a typical project is that you'd work on?
Oh, well, no, because there is no typical project. And I think that's another thing I love about this job. But I would say, first and foremost, something that I do quite a bit of is that one of our users or the environmental community has a particular challenge. They come to Esri and they say, oh my gosh, how do we fix this? Or how do we get through this challenge? Or how do we modernize? We've been working on shoestring budgets for so long. Oh my God. And then we get to go, oh, well, we have a solution for you. Or we get to dream through what something might look like, and then we get to demo it back to the customer and start the creative juices going and get people really thinking about how they can tackle these issues. So that's in a nutshell, I think, the meat of what we do, but there's so much to it. Every day is different.
That is awesome. And I'm now officially jealous. I was initially, now I'm officially jealous. So
it is as cool as it sounds. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. You should be jealous. Yeah, I'm jealous. I wake up going, who am I?
Right. How did this happen to me? Oh, I love that. But we love talking about career journeys on the show too. And you have a background in botany and plant ecology. So how did you get from there to GIS in Esri?
Oh man, I would have to borrow time from all of your podcasts in order to tell this story. But yeah, no, I started out as an art student. I was a first generation college student, had no idea really what college was or why someone might want to go to it or what it does for you, but happens to have this art scholarship. So I went to art school and I realized that I was really bored in art school and that the things I was interested in were all plants and botany and biology related. And so I ended up snooping around the greenhouse at Austin P. The botany professor there was like, are you interested in botany? And I said, I don't know. It's a word on the back of my Herbal Essences shampoo bottle, maybe. And long story short, I ended up switching majors to biology, failed my first semester because I was clueless, cried to my father that I'd made the biggest mistake in the world, and then just persevered through it. But I ended up applying GIS to these topics.
Yeah.
And what I realized throughout the year is that what I really love, and I do love plants, I love them a lot, but what I really love is answering questions and empowering myself to explore topics. And GIS is the tool that allows you to do that. So I'm self-taught in all this GIS gobbledygook, but I'm formally trained in botany, but I can't tell you anything about plant taxonomy.
That's amazing. Yeah, gosh, I took a plant taxonomy class, and all I can remember is that our professor had open heart surgery and then came back to class. And I was like, he's going to die. We're going to watch him die right here. And that's what I remember about plant taxonomy. So
wow.
I feel you. I do.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was kind of like we were worried. We were, but yeah, like So you've done some field work though throughout your career, and I know you have a few amazing stories. So what is this about whispering while counting? Why did you have to do that?
Okay, whispering while counting. All right, whispering while counting. So I have done the majority of my field work here in Tennessee, and sometimes we have to go places where folks are having some fun. And one of the fun activities that folks do is just shooting guns out in the woods.
Like you do, yeah.
Like you do. And so there was this one population that hadn't been monitored in a while because the landowner didn't really want state folks walking around on their land. Totally get it. And the new landowner was a little more amenable. And so we decided, okay, we're going to go check out this population, hadn't been seen in a while, this particular plant. And we're getting access to the population, but it's kind of in the sticks in Tennessee. And the adjacent neighbor was out in the woods shooting off guns. And, not everyone is amenable to land. And at this point, we were maybe on the border of the property. We weren't really sure quite where we were at. Tool that GIS can help with, by the way. And they were just shooting off guns, and we didn't really want to, get involved. And so we counted the plants really quietly and tiptoed around. Yeah. But we monitored that population. So, and I didn't get shot.
There you go. Always a win when you don't get shot.
It's goal number one.
Yeah, guns come up a lot in field work. It's you're not alone. I know.
No, I know. We should have a whole podcast on, death-defying stories of field work.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, it's funny. I know you have another counting story too, actually, about coneflowers. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Section 6 reporting and why on earth you had to count all of the coneflowers on one site? That must have taken forever.
It did take forever. Oh my God. So Section 6 reporting, first of all, if folks are not familiar with it, hopefully they are, because this is environmental professionals, allows states to do all sorts of things to help monitor, protect, conserve, and recover rare, threatened, and endangered species, RTE. And coneflower in Tennessee was the first listed species. And now that I'm saying that, I'm wondering if it was the first listed plant species ever, the Tennessee coneflower, or just the one in Tennessee. Something to look up. And anyway, so at this point in my career, as I'm coming into it, this was in the phase of being delisted. It had been recovered by the brilliant botanists and ecologists that had come before me. And as part of those efforts, we really had to count all of them or something. Don't ask me why. I did not stand up the methodology. But the time of year and the habitat in which these species occur, it's the middle of summer in the South. And they grow in an area that we call limestone glades. And when the sun hits a flat, hard surface, it is reflected. And I swear, the surface temperature of this limestone is 130 degrees. And we're down there counting these things on our hands and knees.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that was the day that I clicked the last one and said, done. It was amazing. It was so exciting. And I have some picture of me jubilating in the middle of a field of coneflowers. Yeah.
It's almost like a religious experience. You're we did it.
Yeah. And you have heat exhaustion. So the whole religious experience thing, it's literal. You're hallucinating and you're having these, images in your head go through. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Well, we can't let you get out of the way without giving us one more embarrassing story though. So I know you have another one. I know it's in there.
I've got so many. I know I've got so many.
So what about your tick story? What about that?
Okay, tick story. Tick story is, I've got a vein streak. I'll just say it that way. Who doesn't, right? And when you're in the field, you're not actually looking your best. And you're out there and maybe you smell like sulfur if you use sulfur powder for ticks and chiggers. Maybe you have sunscreen smeared across your face and sweat and dirt and whatever else. And we had all those things. It was gross. But we needed to go get lunch, and we actually happened to be in an area where we could go to a tzatziki's. It's luxury to be able to go get lunch when you're doing field work. And so we were not going to pass that opportunity up. All right. So we go to the tzatziki's, and there's this kid working the register, and this kid is so nice, and we are so gross. And I'm smiling, ordering my food, and he's smiling, ordering back, super nice. And doesn't say a word to me. I order my food and then I go to the restroom to clean up a little bit. Well, I look in the mirror and there is a giant tick that is crawling across my face that I did not feel. And the whole time, this kid could have told me. It's not like it just appeared. And I just thought, that darn kid, you told me to watch my curse words. That darn kid could have told me. And he was just too nice. He just smiled the whole time. And I just thought, he's so kind.
Yeah. Or he's afraid of you. Could have been that too.
Or he's afraid of me. I was a giant smelly beast. Who is this person?
Right. Yeah, it's fine. Have a good day. Yeah, right. I love it.
Yeah.
that's the field work. So we love that, that part of the job sometimes, but it always comes with those little nuances and caveats. So I appreciate those stories. But, so you work with data now, and it's such an interesting topic. It really is incredible. I think it's fair to say that we talk in different languages when it comes to how we use data, particularly how the public uses it, how the private sector uses it, and how government uses it. So what do you see as some of those challenges? And do you have solutions to how to use data collaboratively?
Oh, man. Well, yes, I do firmly believe that there are solutions out there. I do firmly believe that they work. I think the hardest thing, and one of the most beautiful things, of course, is that we live in a country where things are not mandated to us directly, right? Mm-hmm. So that can make it really hard because everyone goes off on their own tangents on how we actually deal with information or how the data life cycle moves around through different bits of technology. And everyone wants their own slice of the technology pie. And so they don't like to integrate and all of that stuff. And here at Esri, we have these REST APIs. We have ways to bring in disparate sorts of data. We love to integrate. We love to bring these things together. And so in my mind, it is this way to bring together all these disparate data sources, spatial or non-spatial, and put them together to glean information that helps us make decisions faster, better, smarter, more environmentally friendly, and more collaboratively between all of these different levels of government. I call state government the middle child. They have to deal with the federal government, and then they have to work with the public and the local communities and the private industry. Poor folks, they're in the middle of all of it, Mm-hmm. And the pipeline I see all the time that occurs and that can occur is this dissemination of data up and down this chain through things like ArcGIS Hub, through things like the REST API endpoints, through things like Jupyter notebooks and being able to pull all this information in and move it through, but also to reconcile it, field names and data schemas and the nitty gritty stuff of how do we shove these things together and make them relate. Innovations are occurring on this all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is Esri doing then? What are some of those innovations that you've seen in your time working at Esri?
Well, I think a new product that it's so new. I haven't even read the full product brief on it, but I'm so excited about it. I think it's fascinating. It's called ArcGIS Knowledge. This is all about knowledge graphs, which is also a new concept for me. I come up through all of this very GIS centric, but there's a whole other world out of there outside of GIS. And so how do we bring these worlds together of unstructured data, of all sorts of stuff that's coming together? And ArcGIS Knowledge is intended to do that. So it's like link charts and things to understand relationships between stuff that may or may not be inherently spatial. I use air quotes because in my mind, everything is spatial. But yeah, so that's a really fascinating tool that's coming out. But ArcGIS Hub is something that I just spoke about, and it evolved out of something called open data. So the way I think about it is that entities, and again, I'll put my state hat on. Let's say I'm a state government and I just need to broadcast information out. And that's all good and great. And that's where open data comes in. But I think what we're really seeing is that this is about communication. It's not just about broadcasting. And communication goes two ways. Yeah. And it goes more than two ways. It goes 5,000 different ways, right?
For sure.
And so ArcGIS Hub and ArcGIS Hub Premium facilitates two-way engagement, which means that let's say there's a bunch of grant dollars coming down the pipeline, pardon the pun, and we need to help communities understand, are they eligible? How do they actually apply for a grant? Do they have questions? How do we communicate with a specific audience? ArcGIS Hub Premium is, this is like its moment to shine. Grant dissemination. I'm so excited about it. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. There's a lot of different tools, but I think those two are at the forefront of my mind right now, personally.
That's awesome. Yeah. And like I say, you really could spend time answering lots of those. And it's
I could. It could be a whole podcast on Hub. It could be a whole podcast on any one of our, I don't know, I don't want to misspeak, a jillion products that we have here at Esri. I think 140 is the last number I heard. Wow. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is great. And, I love it. And like I say, I hate to even shift gears a little bit, but one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because I just saw this post about you reading the infrastructure bill cover to cover. And I just have to ask you, what made you do that? And what did you come up with? What did you come away with after reading it?
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. So this post now on LinkedIn, I don't know. I feel like maybe for LinkedIn, it's gone viral. I know if you do like TikToks, you get like millions of views or something. I think on LinkedIn, I was pretty stoked when I hit like 500 views, but now it's up to just shy of 18,000 views.
Wow.
So I have now become known as the girl that read the infrastructure bill. Okay. But it's better than like being the girl that busted her butt on ice and it got 1 million views. So like, I mean, I'll take it. Okay. So the infrastructure bill, why did I read it? I am very impatient with the news, and I kept wanting to find some magical resource that told me all of the ways in which this infrastructure bill would impact environmental agencies. And quickly learned that like I would find some summaries about a specific section and how it might impact a Fish and Wildlife Agency, or I would find a section that spoke to, replacing lead pipes, all these really specific things that other people had decided were important, and they are important. But I knew there was more in there. I'm like, people can't be super excited about a 1,000-page bill just because of lead pipelines, broadband, and batteries, and whatever else. Like, there had to be more to it. So I spent $150 at Kinko, and they printed it out for me because I can't read these kinds of things on a desktop. My eyes would bleed. And so I every night after work, I would sit in bed and go through the sections at first that I thought were interesting to me, but then filled in the gaps in between. And okay, here's my takeaway from this. Are you listening?
I am listening. I am all
okay.
Yours.
It's really profound. Okay. This bill is telling us to keep doing what we're doing.
What?
Okay. I know. Okay, but here's the things that are different about it. I think. First of all, it is an unprecedented amount of money. And so then we have to ask why. Why is there so much money in this darn bill? And this is just one of them. We know there's more coming out, right?
Right.
I think the reason why, because there's a lot of language in here about it, and there's a lot of these little pilot programs and things related to research and all sorts of stuff. What they are asking America to do is to innovate how we conduct our daily business. And then the other things that are unprecedented about this bill is it's telling us, don't just innovate with an eye to social justice and equity, and with a deep sensitivity to our role in the environment. So as environmental professionals, we need to all read this bill. It is heightening the importance of the work that the environmental industry conducts. And I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So anyways.
It's incredible. No, I think that's really great and very positive, and I love to see that and hear that. And I would agree with you. I think the bill does ask agencies to dream big on innovation, and that's sometimes it's easier said than done. Innovation, I think, sometimes is a word that just has this air of mystery to it.
Yeah, it's like sci-fi.
Right. It's like innovation. Ooh, you know. So, do you have any ideas on what that innovation actually could look like for agencies?
Yes, I think so. So I'm going to start with our state environmental agencies here.
Yeah, please. Because
I think what happens a lot of time is that our transportation groups, utilities, broadband, a lot of stuff that's really highlighted in this bill, that's all about building things. Environmental agencies don't necessarily build things, right? We regulate the things that are built. We make sure that they're being built in an environmentally reasonable way. And therefore, sometimes they're left out in a way. people kind of forget. So a lot of this money that's coming down the pipeline, again, pardon the pun, I'm just going to wear that one out. Okay, so a lot of the money that's coming down, it ends at groups that build things.
Right.
But there's a lot of money in here too, also with land management agencies, which is awesome and really interesting. And how do they play a role in the things that get built? So I think the ways that our state environmental agencies are going to have to innovate, they're going to have to permit all these things. They're going to have to be involved in all of these things. They're going to have to collaborate their subject matter expertise on how these things affect the environment in ways and at a certain kind of volume than they've never really had to before. And so the systems that they have in place to conduct this work are really old.
Yeah.
They're often out of date. They suffer from shoestring itism. Right. They're built with bubble gum and shoestrings a lot of times.
Yeah.
So they're really going to have to look at these systems and these processes and say, how do we manage this volume? How do we do it better? How do we share this? How do we become more collaborative? How do we rise to the call to action that this bill is asking us to rise to? And yeah, I'm excited. And I have lots of ideas for them. So get me involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I'm a very impatient person too when it comes to this stuff, because I think it's amazing and I want it to happen now.
Oh, I know.
But what's a realistic expectation for when we start seeing some of these changes come through?
Well, I think that environmental agencies, in particular state environmental agencies, but also I think the federal government and private industry and others, this bill is a catalyst, but this isn't necessarily a new discussion that's happening. And so I see a lot of different agencies. I think like TDEC is a really good example right now, Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. Not that I'm biased, but they're my buddies. They're really looking at this and they're already making improvements on how they conduct business. And a lot of other states are. I'm giving them a shout out just in case they're listening. But there's a lot of agencies that are already looking at this, and they were, I think, in some ways anticipating this. And so this innovation is already occurring. I think the hard part is, what does it mean to permit something, right? There's like 5,000 different programs that require different kinds of permits. So I think the tough part, and what we seek to do here at Esri, is we want to look across this landscape. What's the pattern that meets 80% of any permitting methodology?
Right.
There's field work. You got to go out and look at these things. You got to check on them. You got to see if they're in compliance. There's summarizing this stuff and reporting it back up. There's folks that need to apply for the permit. Like kind of these three fundamental things. So how do we look at technology and apply that very broadly and then let folks get more specific with it, for the individual kinds of things? So yeah, timelines, I don't know, but it's already happening. It's already happening. This is just a catalyst.
Heck yeah. Awesome. All right. I love that answer. That was really great. And like I say, I'm more than impressed. I can't even put it into words how cool it is you read the whole thing cover to cover and that you challenged everyone else to do the same thing. I love that. So speaking of love, we also love talking about travel on the show. It's just one of our favorite things. And
I love traveling.
And you have been to Madagascar, which again, I don't know how I can get more jealous of you, but here we are.
Yes, and I assure you, it's more than just a movie. It's an actual place.
What was it like? Tell us about it.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. So yeah, tomorrow I fly out to Belize. So that's another thing. But I know. So we could talk about that too. There's so much travel. But Madagascar is special to me. I have its national tree tattooed on my shoulder because, of course, I do.
Right, yeah.
But all right. So when I had the opportunity to travel to Madagascar, just to put this in perspective, I had barely left Tennessee. I was born and raised here. Right. We didn't travel much at all, and really very at all. So a friend of mine happened to be the TA on this University of Massachusetts at Amherst, had a class going abroad. She happened to be the TA on this, and it was with a bunch of primatologists and anthropologists. And she called me up and said, we need a token botanist. And I was at UT Chattanooga at the time studying botany. And I said, I know nothing about tropical plants, much less Madagascar, which has the highest amount of endemism in the world, I'm pretty sure. And she said, that's okay. That's okay. We just, tell us what the lemurs are eating. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Okay. So so I went with a bunch of students from University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and it was incredible. We really spent basically a month living in a tent in the cloud forest of Madagascar in one of the communities.
Yep.
And Sanjariva specifically, Sanjariv. There's all sorts of different ways you can kind of say it. Sanjariva, Madagascar. And so spent a tent in the cloud forest, and I chased around lemurs with an umbrella so they wouldn't poop on my head and would catalog what are they eating and why are they eating it, and is the agricultural practices here in the fragmented rainforest, their natural habitat, what are the differences between the food types that they're eating? How is this affecting their teeth? How is this affecting how they grow up and mature? Just like humans. Yeah. What do we eat as children, and how does that affect our development? So it was really fascinating. I learned all sorts of stuff about lemur poop and parasites, and it was magical, and ferns. It was incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So Kara, make a note. Sunny's never allowed to come back on the show. She's too cool. Obviously, we can't have that. So that's a great story. So now I want you to think about post travel, right? That's great. I'm glad you had a fun time, but I need you to feel a little bit worse than you are right now because it's too good. It's too good.
Okay. Yeah.
That flight home had to be brutal, right? Like, how do you manage that? Because that had to be awful.
Okay. So 2 things about the travel experience, that particular experience that I absolutely hated was travel there. We had to take malaria pills, of course, on leading up to and on the way there. And at the Charles de Gaulle airport, our flight was just delayed and delayed and delayed. And at this point, and this was going to Madagascar, at this point, I didn't even know what time of day it was. I didn't know how much time had elapsed. And I just started popping malaria pills, paranoid that I had missed my dose, which if you've ever taken malaria pills, they can really mess with your dreams and your psyche. It was crazy. So I'm just lying on the gross floor of the Charles de Gaulle airport, popping malaria pills with the rest of my folks. So that was a miserable experience in and of itself. But then coming back, so we had decided to take a little side trip and don't give yourself less than 24 hours to change planes in a third world country and fly halfway across the island. It was a bad idea. We're sitting in the airport and we watch the airplane that's supposed to pick us up to get us back to the main airport just keep flying. And I don't speak a lick of French. And at that time, I barely spoke a few Malagasy words, enough to say I'm sorry, which is Azafadi. And the woman at the airport comes up to me and Christine and says, "Don't worry, it'll be back," in French. And I'm like, "What?" So then we're freaking out because we have less than a 24-hour window to get back to our plane that was going to take us home. And one thing I learned about travel, and that I still internalize to this day, is nothing is in our control. So just chill.
Right.
I'm going to come home no matter what.
Right.
So I just chilled. We were like, okay, cool. It was the most zen moment ever. But then, all right, we get back. We're back in the US and it's 4 a.m. and I have eyes as big as saucers and I am super awake and I am like, I am now the most productive person in the world. I'm turning into the person that wakes up at 4 a.m. and exercises and does all sorts of stuff before everyone else is awake. That lasted maybe a day before I felt so nauseous and so sick. And then I was like, oh, that's jet lag. Yeah.
Awesome. There we go. That's good. That's good.
There's your terrible story.
There we go. Yeah, finally. But it's funny. We ask about hobbies on the show a lot too, and it seems like your hobby is hobbies. And you like what? Soccer, dogs, gardening, cooking, and now it's ceramics. So is it safe to say you like to try new things?
Yeah, I get bored really easily, which I think also is why I read the infrastructure bill. So, yeah, passing the bar might be my next hobby. I'm not sure. But yeah, I have taken up ceramics recently. I tried quilting once. That was miserable. Gardening, I love. That's a common theme. Soccer, I've played soccer my entire life. So that's a common theme. During the pandemic, I got really bored and did something I never thought I would do, which is taking up running, which is the worst form of exercise in the world. But I just had this moment one day, I have to go run. And it was like my Forrest Gump moment. So I haven't stopped running. I brought some things. I know this is a podcast, so people won't be able to see this, but this is my recent mug I've made.
Hey.
I'm very proud of this. And then I have a birdhouse that I've made that looks like a Dr. Seuss birdhouse kind of thing. Yeah, this one's ready to be glazed. So I thought I'd show and tell a little bit. But yeah, hobbies are my hobby. I get bored really easy.
So have any of them stuck though? Do you have, like you say, soccer has been around for a while?
Oh.
Is it just soccer and gardening? Are they the only two you keep up with?
Yes. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think those are the only consistent ones. Everything else comes and goes. I have a feeling, though, that ceramics is going to stick.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah, we'll have to check back with you again to see. Next time we have you on, that's what we'll do.
Yeah. Call my husband. He'll tell you all of the things that I have spent oodles of money on and then forgotten about. So, yeah.
Yeah. We're interviewing him next, actually. So, yeah, that'll be perfect.
He is an environmental professional. So,
there you go. Well, we're almost out of time, but we like to give people a chance to, if they want to connect with you, find out where you, ask you questions or anything like that. Is there a place where people can reach you?
Oh my gosh, yes. Reach me on LinkedIn. I'm starting to embrace that after my, I guess, viral post. And so there's that, but also you can always email me, sfleming with 1M at esri.com. Yeah, just give me a shout. I'm pretty responsive. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before you leave?
I just want to reiterate, I think the importance of geography, the importance of GIS, and the importance of what environmental professionals do is finally getting recognized in its fullest. And I really hope that as a group of professionals, we really take this to heart. We celebrate it and let's dig in on this. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Oh, Sunny, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciated your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
That's our show. Thank you, Sunny, so much for joining us today. It was super fun. We had a lot of good laughs in there. That's a mark of a good show, I think. So appreciate you joining us. For everyone else, please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.